So in this video, I'm gonna share how I warm up for front squats. I'm gonna be using dynamic stretches. I'm gonna choose 6 stretches in total. This routine is joint specific, so I'm gonna be targeting the joints that you're gonna be using when you're front squatting. This is not a mobility routine. This is just a warm-up routine to prepare your joints for squats. If you have mobility restrictions, you will need to work on those restrictions. That's not what this routine is for. The very obvious thing that we need for front squats is wrist extension. So this is wrist extension here. So we're just gonna go down onto our hands and knees, and we're gonna start with a dynamic stretch. So once you're in this position, try to keep the back of your hands down on the ground. Also want you to try to bring your elbow, the inside of your elbow, and rotate it facing forward, okay? Just so we've not got too much internal rotation going on in the shoulders here. So externally rotate, and then from here, we're just gonna pull ourselves in. So we're actively pulling ourselves into this stretch and then pushing out of it. And we're gonna go for 12 of these. If you get any pain or pinching when you're doing this, then you wanna work on wrist mobility. This is literally just a dynamic warm up to prepare the joints for squats. So we're gonna do another stretch from this position just to bring the fingers into it a little bit more. So what you can see I'm doing here is I'm driving into the knuckles and I'm pushing my palms up off of the ground here as much as I can, and then I go back down into that stretch. So you should feel all of those muscles under the hands and your hands here, getting a good stretch. And again, this is active, so we're really pushing our knuckles down into the ground and then back down until they're fully flat, staying in wrist extension, maintaining that stretch. And again, we're gonna go for 12 reps. Okay, so whilst we're on the floor, we're now gonna go onto the hips. So the first exercise, we're gonna go into the 90-90 position. So for this, we just wanna sit up nice and straight. Okay, if you find that you can't sit in this 90-90 position, then you might have some mobility restrictions, again, highlighting an issue in the hips. That's something that you should work on. I'm gonna create another video for this, but if you're comfortable in the 90-90 position, then what we're gonna do is we're gonna do some rotations to work hip external rotation and hip internal rotation. So with a nice straight back, I'm just gonna hinge forward. I'm gonna feel that stretch on my glutes. So I'm going as far as I can, okay? I'm gonna come out of this. I'm rotating, so I've got that internal rotation. I'm lifting this knee up nice and high. Coming over into this bear stretch position as I transition over to the other side, keeping the knees as far apart as possible throughout this exercise. This knee comes down and I do the exact same stretch, but now on this side, getting that stretch in the outer hip here. Lean into that with a straight back as much as I can. Push myself back in, back out, lift this knee, rotate round. Try to maintain distance between these two knees. I'm using my hands here for assistance. So if you've got really good mobility and you're quite comfortable, you can start doing this without any support. But I recommend actually using support, just because then you can really focus on the movement without exerting too much energy. Because remember, we are going to be going into front squats, so we don't want to tire ourselves out too much here. We're going to go for 12 rotations. Next exercise for the hips again, we're going into the bear stretch position. So this is the middle of the rotation that we just done. So we're just gonna place our hands behind us. We're gonna lift this knee up nice and high, as far as we can till we can't go any further. And then we're gonna bring this one, keeping the distance between the two until you get into a full stretch here. Try to keep a nice straight back. If you find that you're leaning forward with this, then you can do this on a step. But now you're in this stretched position here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna work on our internal rotation, okay? So keeping the bum down on the ground, maintain contact with the ground, and then we're gonna bring our knee down, internally rotating in the hip as much as we can, and then back out. We're gonna do one on each side. So internally rotating as much as we can, and then back out. One thing I don't wanna see here is lifting that hip up and really compensating. You wanna try and keep that nice and strict. It's all just coming from that hip internal rotation. So that's a good rep. This would be a bad rep. Too much compensation. So we're gonna go for 12 reps in total. So for this next exercise, you're gonna need like a PVC pipe or some sort of pole and a bench. Okay, so you wanna grab your pipe, and then we want our hands to be just a little bit wider than our elbows, okay? So we've just got a little bit of shoulder external rotation going on here. We're gonna place our elbows onto the bench, and then what I want you to do is kind of round your back a little bit, okay? And then from here, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna sit back into this stretch, and already I can feel this stretching my lats, okay, and my shoulder external rotators, and I'm just gonna go down into this as much as I can, then I'm gonna come back out. So again, it's a dynamic movement. We're not holding the stretch, we're just moving into it. We can exhale on the way down, inhale on the way up, and we're gonna go for 12 reps. Next, we're gonna do the second shoulder exercise using the PVC pipe, but this time we don't need the bench. Okay, so we want a nice straight arm for this one. We're gonna hold onto the pole. Actually, you wanna hold it like this, so you've got more length above your hand. So we've got our arm nice and straight. We're then just gonna bring our hand back to outside of our shoulder, like what we're doing in a front squat. And then what you're gonna try and do is maintain this grip, okay? And then grab hold of this. Okay, pull it in to the shoulder, and then what we're going to do from here, keeping this shoulder or this elbow facing forward, we're just going to rotate our shoulder out externally. To do this, we pull this arm, and you can see here I've got this stretch, and I'm coming back into the middle. So I'm pulling out, externally rotating, relaxing up, coming back into the middle, and we're going to go for 12 reps. One thing you don't want to do when you're doing this is as you pull, this elbow's coming out to the side. Try to keep the elbow facing forward, so it's rotating on its axis here, and it's going out to the side. You can see that external rotation. You should feel a stretch on the outside of the shoulders. So that covers all 6 exercises. You're just going to do those back to back, 12 reps on each. And now you should be ready to go into your first warm-up set of your front squat. So I'm just gonna load up the bar and I'm gonna do a warm-up set. Usually I'm doing like 3 to 4 warm-up sets until I get to my working weight. When I'm at my working weight, the warm-up is over and the workout has begun. So this video covers 3 of the basic kind of joint functions that you need to get into that front rack position and perform the front squat, but everyone's different. Everyone has their own restrictions. I don't cover everything in this video. There may be other things that you need to work on. So if that's the case, you're not seeing improvement after working on some of these key areas, and you might want to get a joint assessment to find out what's going on, the restrictions that you have, and then you can go about improving those with some joint specific exercises. There could be things like thoracic extension, which is limited in some people, so they don't have the mobility in the upper spine. So there are various other things that may need to be tested and worked on in order to improve your front squat. But this video covers a few of the basics. Let me know if you found this useful. If you did, then please subscribe to our channel and let us know what you would like us to cover in future videos.